Hello, Packers fans, and welcome into PackersNews.com. I'm Kassidy Hill, joined by Ryan Wood. Believe it or not, we are actually down in Lambeau Field right now. It looks pretty magical out here, Ryan. I like it.
It is a different type of vibe when you get these lights on the field like this. And this time of year. This time of year, they like to take care of their grass.
It sounds so weird out of context of, like, football.
Yeah.
Like, oh, they like to take care of their grass.
They're manicuring and stuff.
Exactly. Somebody's out here with scissors measuring it. But yeah, it's cold. It's about 4:30, 4:45, and it's already dark out here at Lambeau Field. But we are still here burning the 5 o'clock midnight oil. Matt LaFleur wrapped up not too long ago. He gave a lot of injury updates today. Elgton Jenkins, David Bakhtiari, even Aaron Jones. Let's start with the offensive line and Jenkins and Bakhtiari, because losing both of those has a ripple effect across the entire offensive line. What all did Matt LaFleur have to say today?
Elgton Jenkins is done. He won't return this year. Torn ACL. Brutal loss for this offensive line, for this entire team. And it's brutal because it's also in combination, in conjunction with, they don't know when David Bakhtiari is coming back. He said that Matt LaFleur said, I think that he will play this season. They don't know when that might be. I asked Matt LaFleur, is there a definitive plan in place for when David Bakhtiari might be back? And he said there is a plan, but plans are subject to change. And that very much has been the case with David Bakhtiari. So when you look at the left side of that offensive line, you're looking at David Bakhtiari and Elgton Jenkins, going from that to Yosh Nijman and John Runyon Jr. They've both played solid, but neither is a Pro Bowler, let alone an All-Pro like David Bakhtiari. That's obviously it's going to be tough.
We just got a gust of wind, so give me just a sec. I'm going to fix this light for us.
Technical difficulties here.
Don't try this at home. We are professionals.
This is why you get the big bucks.
Exactly. I can stand a light back up. Yeah, it's a little chilly and windy out here on Lambeau Field. They do head into this next week with the Rams not really knowing yet what they're going to do along that offensive line. However, there was some slightly positive, maybe, who knows, could be a chance that they will get Aaron Jones back. I think Matt LaFleur's exact words were, there's a chance.
Yes.
So how big would that, and from what we're hearing, do we think that he might be out here on Sunday?
I would suppose not, but there's definitely a chance, according to Matt LaFleur. I would suppose that they will be careful with him. They'll be cautious. There's the bye coming up. They've obviously had a ton of injuries, and they can't afford to mess around, obviously, and have this be a bigger injury with Aaron Jones than what it is. So my guess is that they'll be cautious with him, but we'll get a better feel for that once Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday come around. If he's out there practicing, doesn't mean that he'll play, because Rashawn Gary practiced the entire week, and he didn't play with that hyperextended right elbow. So just because you practice doesn't mean that they'll play. But with that bye week coming up next week, it's going to be real tempting for them to be real cautious with Aaron Jones for another week, and we'll just have to see.
And A.J. Dillon was productive versus the Vikings. They just didn't go to him as much. Only 11 rushes, although he did have 6 receptions. Some of that is from playing from behind. When you're 13 points behind, you have to put the ball in the air a little bit more. However, that second half, they did go to the air a lot. I think in total, Aaron Rodgers went 10 of 11, 212 yards, 4 first downs, plus 3 touchdowns, something along those lines. And it was the most productive they have been all season. Those are Matt LaFleur's words, not mine. He said that is the most in sync this offense has been yet. We're going to take some questions here in a few minutes, but before we do, Ryan, just what was working in that second half, and how can they build off of that moving forward?
Well, I don't think there's any question of the fact that Aaron Rodgers basically not practiced for a month. I mean, he's had one regular practice and one walkthrough since mid-October. It's been a minute because of COVID-19, now the toe. He's getting the reps that you need that he hasn't been getting. He's getting that in the form of snaps. And so it took a game and a half with him coming back, not practicing at all, for him to get into that rhythm. But I think you finally saw that and I thought it was very interesting. Matt LaFleur said that there was some adjustment in terms of how much they gave him from the start of yesterday's game to the end in terms of the plays, the menu, because even if you're Aaron Rodgers, you don't practice it, it's tough. It's a lot to handle. So they simplified things and were able to get him to play much faster.
Linda wants to know, was there an update on Rashawn Gary? Is that sort of a wait and see on Wednesday as well?
Yeah, we'll have to see later in the week with all injuries. He practiced last week, had that big brace on his right elbow that was really restrictive. Wouldn't be surprised if they're waiting to get something less restrictive that he can wear for protective reasons on that elbow.
And then Muhammad asked, why did they release Will Redmond? If you haven't heard, the Packers announced about an hour ago that they released safety Will Redmond. He's been on injured reserve all year. They've got a pretty packed secondary now. Is that really just what it came down to?
Yeah, just being on IR, it's an injury settlement type deal, and I'm not sure why it took this long, but it's one of those things that is kind of procedural.
And then Matt wants to know, why are the Packers DBs playing so far off of the receivers they're covering?
Yeah, that's a good question. Everyone always wants to know about the off coverage, and it's one of those things that down and distance dictates a lot. Not wanting to get beat deep. Let's face it, Justin Jefferson was running straight past DBs yesterday. Jerry Gray has said, the DBs coach, a 5-yard gain, 10 5-yard gains, that's 50 yards, or one 50-yard bomb. Which would you rather have? And it's clear that this secondary would rather make teams put together 10 5-yard gains than get that 150-yarder. So that's what you're going to see from this secondary. Is a lot of off coverage, a lot of cushion to not get beat deep. And for the most part, it has worked. Now, obviously, Justin Jefferson had some plays like that yesterday, but for the most part this season, they've been able to prevent teams from getting behind them.
Then Edward fell on the sword for us today. He asked the question that's on everyone's mind and that we seem to be answering every day. What's up with Mason Crosby?
I asked Matt LaFleur basically that same question today. I asked him if there's any thought to having a different kicker, which seems inconceivable. It would seem inconceivable how last year went. He was 16 for 16. He'd really put together a couple really good years. He's 15 for 23. He's missed 8 of his last 14 kicks, and it doesn't get a sense that it's getting better. Matt LaFleur said absolutely not. There's no consideration of opening that job up for competition. They do have J.J. Molson, practice squad kicker, available, but as of right now, that's not going to be a competition. Matt LaFleur also said if he wasn't completely confident in Mason Crosby, he wouldn't have sent Mason Crosby out for that 54-yard kick, which he made, by the way, his longest make this season at the when it was 4th and 8 from the 36-yard line at the end of that opening drive. They would have gone for it. So they've still got confidence, and at this point, they're going to stick with that and stick with Mason Crosby.
Matt, who asked about the soft zone, followed up with, I think he was specifically asking about that 3rd and goal from the 8-yard line. Matt, if I'm understanding you correctly, I'm thinking that's the Adam Thielen touchdown that was in the first half. Do you remember which one he's talking about?
Not off the top of my head.
It was like a screen to Thielen, and he cut himself around. He did a stutter step and got around Kevin King into the that may be a question for Joe Barry if we get him this week. Would you think?
I would think so. Tours.
We have a tour going. Very nice. You got a little sound back there for you. And then Linda asked, is there any indication Rodgers will practice more this week? I know you were on Rodgers' call yesterday, and he was asked that. So what did he say?
Aaron Rodgers said that the plan is not to practice this week. He practiced once last week. It was a Friday. He said it's not going to be a different plan, so maybe he gets a Friday practice. But that toe got stepped on in the first half. It got re-aggravated, and he made it very clear it's going to be another painful week for him. So I would not expect to see him on the practice field early this week, if at all. He's going to need to. He'll play. He'll play against the Rams, but he's going to need to rest that up over the bye. This bye cannot come soon enough for this team. It's been a death march to get here. Week 13 bye, not what you want, and it's taken its toll. They need to get to this bye and rest up.
So a beat-up team. We won't know a lot of what their status will look like until Wednesday. We will be there for you to cover it all. Wednesday, Thursday a little bit. Happy Thanksgiving early to anyone watching. And through the rest of the week as the Green Bay Packers get ready to welcome the Los Angeles